Yeah, so this is where I'll be playing for the Shavasana, and it's a pretty cool instrument because it's a classical Hindustani classical Indian instrument. It basically is from the history of Mughals creating this music in North India in Hindustani, and amazing lineage of several hundred years of these kings having these dedicated musicians. And that's this very, very simple drone instrument. But what's awesome about it is even though it's so simple, it supports the other musicians, and it takes a lifetime to learn about it. It's one of those things that the simplicity is so beautiful, and then once you learn the simplicity, it fractals out into all these different scales and compositions and everything. They're just amazing. So a metaphor for the devotion to like the very most simple things that you have in life, that then when you become devoted to them, fractal out into all this beauty. And a metaphor for this practice too, because this practice is so simple. It's like it's one of the easiest things to do. It's totally accessible. You'll watch me, my body. It won't be perfect. There won't be perfectly straight lines. It'll be a very gentle practice. But the devotion to it is what unlocks the sweetness, because it doesn't really come, like I was saying to you, Melt, in the Discord around, it doesn't really come necessarily in the first time you do it. It takes that devotion of showing up for 30, 40 days in a row, and then it develops these deep grooves, these deep patterns that arise. And these patterns are what unlock the sweetness. So then when your body starts to recognize the breath and the movement of the whole thing, then all of a sudden, then these endorphins are released very quickly in the practice. And a lot of the benefits that you know you're going to get are accelerated earlier in the practice, even though it's a short practice already. So since we're starting a little bit early, I was thinking we could do just a couple minutes on the breath. So the breath being one of the most important parts of this practice. So the breath is actually, the movement is in service of the breath. So it's a little bit different from how you might have learned to breathe in other practices. So on the breath, there's several ground rules. One is that when you inhale, you make sure you're inhaling fully all the way in, and then exhaling all the way out. So you're getting every bit of air in and every bit of air out on every single breath. And then when you're doing this, you're doing it through the nose, both directions. Inhaling through the nose all the way in, and then exhaling through the nose as well, all the way out. And the body shape as you're doing this is a little different. So what you want to be thinking about, and you don't have to do this perfectly, but just think about it. Imagine as you're inhaling, you're growing taller and wider. So the shoulders are expanding, all this upper chest cavity is expanding and growing larger. And as you finalize that inhale, you can't help but the abdomen come out, because your diaphragm is going so low that the abdomen has to come out. All those organs are pushing the abdomen out as the diaphragm drops at the very end of the breath. But it's not a belly breath where you're deliberately breathing from the breath and pulling the diaphragm down. You're expanding upwards and outwards first. And so then as you exhale, you allow the collapse of that upper body. And then the final part of the exhale, squeezing every bit of breath out, is taking the abdomen in and up slightly, because there's no other way you can get every bit of breath out without doing that. And that's a connection to all the bandhas, which are all this internal mechanism of connections between the diaphragm and the chest cavity to the organs all the way to the pelvic floor. And you're activating all of that naturally during the breath cycle, and also supporting your body for the movement. So let's just practice that a little bit. Inhaling all the way in. Exhaling through the nose all the way out. And at the end, that abdomen coming in and up. And then we just add Ujjayi breath to it. So this is important for several reasons. It regulates the breath, the speed of the breath. Ujjayi breath is this sound like fogging a mirror. It's the Darth Vader sound. So you're doing that through the nostrils, though, both on the inhale and the exhale. Inhaling all the way in, and then holding just for a second, and then exhaling all the way back out. And you're going to do this breath through the entire practice. So as we add the movements to it, these movements are in service of the breath. So these movements, like these arm raises, and then the expansion allows the body to open up, the breath comes in, and then as you contract, the body compresses, the breath comes out. So the movements are in service of the breath. And the last rule about the breath is that the breath surrounds the movement. So if the breath is like this, then the movement is like this. So you start the breath just before the movement, and you finish the movement before you finish the breath, then you start the breath again, and then you finish the movement. So if you take this into other yoga practices, it can be very useful to you. So we'll go ahead and get started with the asana, the physical practice. So we'll start standing at the front of your mat. It would be a great place for it. And just get in mountain pose, Tadasana. So mountain pose is basically just relaxed standing position. Feet are about shoulder width apart, knees are slightly bent. The goal here is to have this strength of a mountain, to just feel this groundedness to the earth, where if someone was to push on you, it would be very hard for you to be tipped over. Palms are slightly facing out, but not dramatic. Don't just make it relaxed. And once you feel pretty settled there, we're going to start that inhale breath through the nose, raising the arms to the ceiling, meeting overhead in prayer mudra. And then exhaling, we're kind of combing the auric field, combing our energy body as the hands come down. Inhaling up. And then exhaling down. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. We're doing everything in a series of 4s. Inhaling up again. Exhaling down. Each time you inhale up, you can do a slight back bend just to start moving that spine. This next one, as we inhale up, we're going to forward fold all the way over. And the knees can be slightly bent here. My knees have to bend a lot for my flexibility, and the goal is to get the head below the heart, breathing all the way out, and then we inhale all the way back up. Hands meeting overhead again. 3 more times of that, exhaling all the way down. And then inhaling all the way back up. Again, exhaling all the way down. Inhaling all the way back up. And on this next one, we're going to stay in forward fold and do 4 breaths in forward fold. All the way in, all the way out. Adding that Ujjayi breath, that slight restriction in the back of the throat. Making sure each time on the exhale, getting that breath all the way out. Each time on the inhale, coming all the way back in. One more breath all the way in. All the way back out. Head is as low as possible, below the heart. Hips are as high as possible. Exhaling all the way. And then we're going to reach up to the sky. Inhaling again as we come up, hands meet overhead in prayer mudra. And then we're going to do a sacred motion of our hands on the exhale, coming across the forehead, gently across the lips, and then to the heart. And then holding the hands gently in prayer mudra, not like this, like you've seen many times, but softly. Softly, like you're holding a 1,000-petal lotus. And this is a chance to reflect on the heart-centered nature of this practice. Just a moment of meditation and catching your breath. We come back to the front of the mat. And then we're going to go ahead and inhale up. Exhale, forward fold. And we're going to step the right leg back. Warrior. Then we're going to inhale, coming up again. Slight back bend as those hands meet in prayer mudra. The back leg is straight and flexed. The front leg is bent so the knee is over that ankle. Inhaling up. And then exhaling down over that front leg. Adjusting the hip position so there's a good stretch in both legs as you come down. Inhaling up. And then exhaling back down. We'll do 2 more of those on this side. Inhaling up. Exhaling back down. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. When we get down, we're going to stay down. We're going to bring the back leg to the front, and we're going to go with that left leg back. Inhaling up again after we're balanced. And then exhaling down over that front leg. Inhaling up. And then exhaling down. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Last one. Inhaling up. Exhaling back down. Staying over this front leg now, staying down. We're going to move that back leg to the front. We're going to take 1 giant breath in here. 1 giant breath out. Squeezing every bit of air out. Then inhale up. Coming back, prayer mudra overhead. And then this sacred movement of hands across the forehead, gently touching the forehead, gently touching the lips, gently to the heart. And reflecting here for a moment. Completely relaxing, catching your breath. We're going to go to a wide-legged stance now. Arms are going to come across the room, outstretched like this. They do not have to be perfectly straight. Allow a slight bend in the elbow so it's relaxed. Then what we're going to do is we're going to twist down, taking right hand to the left foot. So on the exhale, right hand comes down, left hand extends towards the ceiling, eyes go to the ceiling. On the inhale, we come back up, slight back bend. On the exhale, we go to the other side, left hand to right foot. Inhale back up. Exhale down, reverse it, right hand to left foot. Inhaling up. Reverse it, exhaling down, left hand to right foot. 2 more of those on each side. If you're not feeling like you're flexible enough, then bend the leg you're going towards just slightly. So you can get down a little further.
Getting more out of breath than flexibility.
What was that, Melt?
I'm getting more out of breath. Like it's interesting to me, the breathing with the exercises. It's an interesting change.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep doing 1 more on each side. And as we complete the last one, get that breath all the way out. And then as we come up, our hands are going to come straight up towards the ceiling. Inhaling fully, and then we're going to exhale down. We're going to drop straight in between the legs here. And we're just going to do a wide-legged forward fold, 4 breaths all the way in, all the way out. Goal here, again, changing that relationship with the spine and gravity. Getting the head as close to the ground as possible, but below the heart. The hips as high as possible. And then making sure you're breathing all the way in, all the way out.
on the outward breath, really pulling that abdomen in and up, squeezing every bit of air out. One last breath. Get it all out, and then we're going to go ahead, inhale up, reverse that swan dive down. Feet are coming back together as we come up, hands meet overhead in prayer mudra. And then that sacred movement again, hands coming across the forehead, gently across the lips to the heart. One of the practical purposes of this daily practice is to join the head and the gut at the heart. We think about our head as the conscious center of doing all our thinking and calculating constantly, but we have many parts of our body that also contribute, like our gut. And it may be that our heart is actually the true center of our consciousness, but we're just raised in a society where we believe that the head is the true center of our consciousness. So we'll come to the front of the mat. We're going to transition into downward dog in just a moment. So rest here for just a second. A couple large breaths. We'll go ahead and come back to mountain pose. Inhaling up, extending the hands above the head, meeting in prayer mudra, forward folding down all the way. And then stepping both legs back into downward facing dog. While we kind of perfect this posture, what we want to do is exhale all the way here, every bit of air out. Then we're going to inhale, we're going to drop the knees to the floor, and we're going to come to cow. Just like you can imagine an old cow on the side of the road, stomach dropped, eyes go to the ceiling, back arched. And then exhaling, we're going to transition right back to downward facing dog. Exhaling fully here. Inhaling as we drop to our knees, arching the back to cow. Exhaling, moving to downward facing dog. And then inhaling, drop into cow. We'll do that 2 more times. Exhaling, pushing all that air out to downward facing dog. Inhaling to cow. Exhaling 1 more time, downward facing dog. Inhaling to cow. And then we're going to drop back into child's pose at the back of our mat. Okay, Mel, if you need a towel or something for your knees, it might be helpful.
So I was just thinking about that, and I was like, do I need a towel for my knees? And I was like, no, I'm going to strengthen my knees. So
That's not
we were
bad
thinking the
either.
exact same thing.
If you can bear it, then they will get tougher. But if it's uncomfortable, it's not about no pain, no gain. This is about
No, I mean, like I've been doing yoga for a bit, and as I've been doing yoga, like this position as well has become more comfortable the longer I've like let myself actually sit in it. And it's just my practice. So like I'm aware
just
of
watch
that.
this motion for one time through as I do it, because it's kind of tricky to try to do and watch at the same time. So I'll demonstrate it. So what we're going to do, while we're building back strength, we're going to do this in kind of a modified way. We're going to pull the fingers back towards the body. Then we're going to come up towards the sky. It's almost like reaching for the moon. This is a moon salutation. We grab the moon, we pull it back down through the body, and keep watching for a moment. I'm going to extend the arms back out here. I'm going to come through, go on my stomach. I'm going to exhale fully here. And then I'm going to inhale into cobra, fingers light. And then I'm going to push up and back on the exhale, back into child's pose. So I'll talk you through it as we do it again. Drawing the fingers back through the body and up, reaching up to the moon. Pulling that moon down
through the body, back into child's pose. Inhaling here as we come to the front of the mat with our chest and stomach, laying flat on our stomach, exhaling fully here. Inhaling into cobra, fingers light. All those muscles of the back tighten up. And then exhaling, pushing up and back. Inhaling, bringing the fingers back through and up to the sky. Reaching for a moon, pulling that moon down and through. Extending the arms out to the front of the mat. Body coming through, inhaling fully here. Exhaling fully as you get to the front of the mat, stomach taking all the weight. Inhaling, coming up into cobra, fingers light. And then pushing up and back. Exhaling into child's pose. We'll do this one more time, inhaling up. Exhaling down. So reach those arms up, and then arms come up, and then they're coming back down through the body, and then through to the front, coming through. There you go. Exhale fully. Then inhale up into cobra, fingers light, and then pushing back into child's pose. Okay, last one to watch too. We're going to come on our backs. The knees are going to come into the chest, but just very lightly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to alternate. We're going to extend the legs towards the ceiling, hands overhead, and then the knees are going to come back in. Then we're going to go to bridge. So the feet are going to drop, hands are going to go overhead, hips are going to come off the ground, and then we return back to this position with knees to the chest. This is very light. We're not pulling them in. So I'll talk you through it, Milt. Okay, knees in, exhale. Okay, then go ahead, hands on the knees lightly. Okay, then inhale, feet come to the sky, arms overhead. Exhale, knees come back in. Try to keep your hips right on the ground as you're doing it. So it's not about how high you can get the feet up, it's about how straight you can get the legs when your hips are still on the ground. Now then, drop the feet to the floor, arms overhead. Hips come off the ground, up into bridge. And so this is the ultimate back healing posture, because you're reversing all the hunching that we do through this posture. Okay, then you're going back. Hips are dropping to the ground, knees are coming in on the exhale. So, and then arms back in, holding the knees. Okay, so feet up, inhale. Knees in, exhale. Feet down, hips up, inhale. Arms overhead. Hips drop, knees in, exhale. Excellent. Let's do that 2 more times. Feet up, inhale. Arms overhead. And then exhale, knees back to chest. Fingers light on the knees. Inhale, feet drop. Hips come up, arms go back overhead. And then hips drop, knees come into the chest. Last one. Inhaling, feet up. Exhaling, knees in. Then inhaling, hips come off the floor. Arms overhead. Exhaling, knees in. We hold the knees there. And then we go into Shavasana. So death pose. Basically just extending out, feet and arms in a comfortable position. Palms of hands, kind of like Tadasana. Palms point a little bit forwards, but in a relaxed way. So a little bit up, I should say. Just close our eyes and relax here. And we're just going to stay in Shavasana for a couple minutes. At least 1 minute of Shavasana for every 10 minutes of yoga. And I'll play a little sound while we rest. So we did it. That's day one. You can wiggle your fingers and toes. Start coming out of Shavasana. Rotate ankles and wrists. Maybe bend those knees, elbows. If you're still on your back, if you want to, a good way to come out is just to rotate knees from side to side, get a little spinal twist action. Big inhale in, exhale out. And then come to a seated posture. So this is day one. Like I said, we need at least 30 or 40 days of practice to really get in a groove with this. And we'll get deeper and deeper as we go every day, and it'll get a little faster too. This one lasted a little bit longer. So thank you all for joining me. And Melt, I'll see you on the stream in just a little bit.
Thank you
Hi,
for
Carrie.
this.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here, Carrie. Have a wonderful